call Jerry Lower.
This is not broadcast.
The last board meeting, he mentioned, cameras weren't working and stuff.
Yeah.
Then put in the meeting on that resolution, you walk past and the camera. And so it picked you up walking and thinking, online.
Yeah, but that's the camera points that way.
I know, but they thought, so
Yeah, but
I think they were lying to
the
them.
camera points that way.
Yeah.
So why is that? So be quiet, we're live, but I can't even get this. I can't get that to shoot.
Seems like it's quite a bit of sound alike.
What's that? I'm not getting any picture at all. Well, now we don't even have a picture. Wait a second here. There we go. I should be able to shoot that. And I can get everybody here.
Well, if somebody comes to the front desk, you can have them talking.
The front.
Get the podium, if they came
Oh.
to address, and they did show up.
Yeah. Man. What time is it?
5 minutes.
Okay, good. Okay, so
That is still going.
It still goes from that direction. It doesn't go from that camera. That's the one that goes there.
I got you.
oh, I can't tell if it's on. Well, that's working.
I'm going to turn mine out before I forget.
Yeah, no, I can't even get that camera to work. Back camera, front camera, puts. Does your microphone work, Sean?
Yeah, Ray's testing.
Trying to think 12, 14 months.
Well, guys, we only have audio. That isn't even broadcasting anymore.
Have a good night, Jay.
Bye, Jay. It says excellent connection. It doesn't even switch to the back camera. So we'll just have to identify people when they speak.
Well, it's no different.
What's that?
No different than anything else. Boy, we do look cozy, don't we? Just our little board.
Yes, yeah.
I hung up our new maps. I took down the old
Took down
ones.
the old ones? Well, there's still a hidden old one back there.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Oh, yeah, I gotta take that down. Does the county still do our zoning maps?
Yeah. If you need a new one, just have them print you a new one out.
Uh-oh.
We've been keeping up, you've been giving them our rezonings, right? Like over the,
I gotta check with Andrea.
maybe make sure that they have the latest and greatest.
Yeah, I'll get all the she'd need the ordinances.
The ordinances, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know when the last time she's gotten anything. I'll ask
Yeah,
her.
there hasn't been that many rezonings, but
I resent you, Wilfred's.
Yep, I got all that,
Okay.
so I'll review that for the July meeting.
Yeah.
All right, you ready, Karen?
Yep, I'm ready.
All right, I'd like to call the Plan Commission meeting to order. Everybody please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call and open meeting law compliance check.
President Jeff Millies.
Here.
Trustee Commissioner Dylan Newman. Commissioner Mario Rinaldi.
Here.
Commissioner Mike Alex.
Here.
Commissioner Jamie Schliessman.
Here.
And also note for the record, our zoning and planning administrator, Sean Malarkey, is here, and we don't have any picture, but we do have audio because of technical difficulties. And Mr. President, you're in full compliance with the open meetings law.
Thank you. Discussion and possible action at the request from Bonnie Look, representing the property owner under will of Lori E. Wollenzine for review and recommendations for a final certified survey map request from the property located at W258 South 9120 Oakdale Road. Tax key number 2050997003999. Sean, you want to give a review
Are
of
you
this?
Bonnie? Bonnie, do you want to sit up there?
It's 7120.
Okay.
Well, I'm just saying, I don't know if that makes a big difference to you.
West 258, South 7120.
Yes.
I must have read it wrong.
That's all right.
Okay, so this is a pretty simple request. It's a certified survey map to create two lots out of one 21.8 acre lot on Oakdale Drive, which is County Road XX. They'd essentially be splitting it to two. Lot one is 11.8 acres, which includes the existing house and a couple of outbuildings and farmland. And then lot two would be 10 acres, just farmland now, but would be a site for a future house as well. The property's planned for 1 unit per 5 acres. The zoning is 1 unit per 5 acres. So that all matches and meets the requirements of the ordinance. We do have some comments from our surveyor, just a couple of cleanups for the survey before it's signed and recorded. They have talked to County DPW about access point on Oakdale. It sounds like the access point will essentially be at the north end of lot 2, right across from the existing driveway from the property at West 259, South 7175, Oakdale Drive. So all that's fine. My only concern with the proposal is the shape of the lots, the configuration. Lot 1 is obviously an odd shape, which in itself isn't necessarily a problem, except that the ordinance says that lots shall be generally rectangular shaped. We can get around that for good reason. And the property directly east is under the same ownership of the trust. It's another larger property, and so it's essentially landlocked at this point. So getting back there, if and when the property is ever further developed, which may not be in the cards right now, but at some point down the line, someone might want to split the property. So my thoughts for a better configuration for lots 1 and 2 would basically divide them north and south, so that lot 1 would be to the north, split by a generally horizontal line, maybe it's perpendicular to Oakdale Drive, and then lot 2 would be the south. In order to hit that access point, essentially, that the county requires, lot 2 to the south would be the 11.8 acre lot, and lot 1 to the north would be the 10 acre lot. I don't know if that works for the petitioners or not. I talked a little bit about that with the petitioner and thought that it may have some merit, but they wanted to see what the Plan Commission thought about the current configuration. Again, the reason why I'd like to see them divided north and south is that, one, if you ever had to get to the property to the east, it's a lot easier to get back there without crossing 2 lots. You'd simply be bringing a road back through one of the properties to get there. And then for the division of lot 1 and 2, because they're at least 10 acres, you could divide them one more time. It makes an easier configuration if you ever brought a road in to get to the east, that you could split them one more time and also develop the property to the east. So those are my thoughts, but it's obviously, it's a Plan Commission and board item. Plan Commission tonight.
Was there any consideration of splitting like Sean just suggested? Is that possible?
We were just, the goal is to leave it farmland until whenever, okay? The only reason we're taking that chunk out is to put his house in a corner and on the hill. It's hard for the equipment on that hill because it's going to be built sort of into the hill, and the driveway fits at the bottom because I have the driveway permit. The highway's already okayed that because you got to have your 150-foot frontage, and I've talked to the highway department. They've been out and they advised that the driveway's got to be X amount from the top of the hill and all of that, so you're not on a blind spot, and it's far enough away from the other driveway to the existing house. So we really never thought about cutting it up north and south side.
I'm saying you can leave the driveway in that same location and still split them more north and south. What about just, and I wish I could show it on the overhead, but I can't.
I'm trying to visually think about it, I'm sorry.
So it's essentially, it's an lot 1 is an L-shaped, and then the other one kind of fits down in the corner. Lot 2's here, lot 1 comes around it. Splitting it more north and south, even if you had to come down a little bit to make sure lot 2 is 10 acres, right? I mean, that's the goal, right, to get a 10 acre lot as part of that. Even if it wasn't completely regularly shaped, at least making it so lot 1 doesn't take up the whole, the whole parcel in terms of the adjacency to the parcel to the east, so that if you did split the property to the east, you could still get a road through without crossing two parcels. But again, it's not the end of the world if the Plan Commission, if you guys don't think you ever want to develop it to the east and you're going to be happy with the way things are, then our job is to plan for the future. But if you don't care about the future of the properties, then
Do you have any thought?
We just didn't want to switch it to the 11 acres, 20 acres, because I didn't want to ask for more land. I just already asked for 10 for my aunt and my dad. I just want to see you guys thought about the lot size nowadays.
See, I was trying to make sure I had, like, the requirements, the 5 acres.
sure, yeah, that's all
And
totally met.
all that, and the way that thing sits, because there's 2 houses on top of the hill, and those are like acre-plus lots.
And I don't really see any career changes in my future.
And
So
because
it's probably
he's
gonna
taking
be
the
farm
farms
before.
over.
But did you say you wanted to make that lot bigger someday?
No,
No,
I'm
okay.
saying I don't really have a career change in future.
Oh,
so
okay.
I'll probably farmland still quite a while.
Till his death. Because hopefully it stays until I'm gone.
Did you hear
Yeah.
that?
So more the survey to do this is really just so I could get the loan from the bank, because how the trust works is it rolls down to me and my brother, so I had to get it surveyed off instead of just building a farm on the existing trust, if that makes sense.
And I can get I talked to a lawyer, who's looked at all the trust papers. If you okay the survey map, I can have a deed by next week.
Really?
Because my brother and I are 50-50. Everything eventually goes blood heir. I have no children. How's that?
I wish I could share the map.
I know,
So what about an option like this, where you keep, lot 2 goes as far north as the driveway where it's got to hit, right? And then it comes into the property to get your driveway into your property, comes a little bit south, and then goes off to the east, so that lot 1 doesn't come all the way down the back end. That's gonna be, it's not gonna be, you still get your 10 acres in the
I
south.
see it on the, do you have it on your screen?
I wish I could.
Can you look at his screen right
Do
here?
you wanna come up real quick and I'll just
I
show
know,
you?
we're
And if
sorry.
any of the plan commission wants to come,
So-
this is like the 1950s.
So it comes in here, right?
Yeah,
And then, comes in like this. And then it comes all the way back like that. So that's divided north and south. You got 10 acres here, right? This isn't perfect, you'll have to figure it out, but the dividing line is mostly east-west. There's a north lot and a south lot. So if a road ever has to come in here, road can come through the property to get to the back, rather than crossing 2 properties.
You just think where the house is gonna go in the driveway, when you
Yeah.
cut that, so I had them.
Where are you
get
gonna put the
that,
house?
like right there. And the driveway's gotta come up to the front of it, the garage doors in there.
Okay, then bring this further. Like that.
Will that keep 10 acres? in it?
Well, whatever, it's gotta, just have your surveyor make sure it's 10 acres. So we're taking this away and we're giving you this. It's probably a little over 10 acres, and maybe it comes down like this instead. Well, but it still gets north and south so that you could still get a road back here to the back of this property eventually. Just a thought, again. What I'm drawing here is essentially just, snaking around a little bit to get to the back, making sure we hit that driveway on X, but getting a more
Yeah, I can see from back here.
double
I'm
lot.
sorry,
I
I
can't
feel,
visualize without seeing something. so.
well, that's why I'm looking at them funny,
And the current houses are all,
The current house is this gray spot over here, and I'm getting rid of the garages as soon as possible.
And Sean, if they wouldn't do that, would they have to do a deed restriction?
No, they wouldn't have to do a deed restriction because one lot's 10 acres, one lot's 11.8. They each get one more division under the current zoning because it's 1 year per 5 acres. So you could divide them again if you could figure a way to do it and figure it to get road frontage. I'm not sure, it's not really possible to divide them without another
Jamie,
road that comes
you
through there.
can't, Jamie, you can't talk.
And if you want to keep them the way you have them configured, you can do that, but just know that getting back here then might be a challenge in the future based on the configuration.
I understand where you're saying, but like I said, we don't see any reason
Yeah,
to, in my lifetime, to.
if we
develop.
sell,
Yes,
we could
your-
always sell.
After your lifetime, your heirs go to develop the land.
They can tear out my gravel driveway,
They could reconfigure it, I suppose, in the future too.
not like it, I'm sorry, not crazy.
No, that's all I'm saying. It could be reconfigured if it was all under the same family ownership, potentially it could be reconfigured, but.
The trust, like she said, is in her name and my dad's, and then me and my brother are the only heirs, and John currently farms full-time also. So, I guess, it's not like there's gonna be, even if I have a bunch of kids, if John's still, right, as of now, there's not like a lot of people to fight
There's only
about it.
4 of us to have a conversation with. My brother and me, which at this point is 50-50. And I have no children. I have 2 nephews, Junior and Jonathan, because that's Brian Junior and that. Then it's on them to
And-
figure it out.
Did you say John still does he farm out here?
John does, yeah.
Oh, does he? Oh.
So, we made it clear, I tried to make it clear as to what my thoughts were, but if you still want to divide it this way, it's not, you can approve it if you want.
and it's their ownership of that lot east?
Yep.
And all stays within the trust?
No, I guess, at some point in time, if things do change, you can reconfigure lot lines at that point if you're gonna develop it for some reason or something.
Yeah, because the trust pays the taxes and all that kind of stuff, and, it belongs to the trust. If I die or my brother dies, it goes to me or him. But then when I die, it goes to my nephews. It's very cut and dry.
Yeah, it's set up right.
Well, no, the lawyer says, he goes, this is easy, I mean, I went to the lawyer just to make sure that I understood what we were doing. And he goes, no. He says, you get me a certified, signed, survey map, and I can get you the deed. As long as one of us signs off on it.
And really, I would think that property would end up back in the trust eventually, i.e. peace.
You gotta, you know,
My commission?
Like I said, as long as they own that east lot too, I don't see any reason why we shouldn't approve it.
Yeah, if they're satisfied with their plan, I don't see, a reason for us to adjust it,
And the only reason they're asking these questions is the Plan Commission has heard so many times that this will never happen, and then somebody calls to buy it and there's a restriction, but the difference that Sean says, it stays within your family.
the only way is if all of us agree it would get sold. Does that make any sense?
Mm-hmm.
Through the years, we've gotten letters from developers and that. What we call the main farm on 164, they were up to $1.5 million an acre.
Are you talking about the
Because of where-
Shelby?
Huh?
What on 160, what farm on 164?
Wollensing, it's up against that industrial park coming out of Waukesha
Oh,
and
okay.
that.
Okay, thank you.
I mean, I know we're sitting on a bunch of,
So everything's good then on that?
But they're still talking.
okay, next question.
All right,
Mike?
Planning Commission has no other questions, concerns, comments. Is there a motion to recommend approval to the village board with Sean's, how many,
Just 3 conditions.
3 conditions?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Motion made by trustee Newman, second by trustee Mario. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion? Aye. Opposed, motion passes unanimously.
So the survey stays the way it is.
It still has to go to the board, though. The board's got to actually approve it.
That's on the 19th?
The 19th,
Mhm.
do I need to come to that? And what time?
It's 6 o'clock meeting, but you probably really don't need to come if you don't want to.
I just feel better if you got questions,
Okay, I
you
mean,
know, and that.
You have there's
We have
2 board
of us
members.
already here, so.
Oh, well, hi, King, you wanna go for dinner? We'll get this, you know.
You did get the staff recommendations, didn't you, that I emailed?
There's some comments on there for your surveyors, clean up a couple of things.
Whatever was on your application, I emailed it to that email address, just so that you'd have Sean's comments. And if you didn't, just call me in the morning, I'll send it again.
Say I have all the emails go to him, so then he can field where we're going to the next project.
And typically what the president does is he puts these at the very beginning of the board meeting, so plan commission issues can be dealt with in the beginning and then. But Jeff, do you want them there?
if they want to come, that's fine. If you
The
don't,
19th,
week from tomorrow, 6 o'clock.
Well, it's next week, Thursday.
I was gonna say, he said tomorrow.
A week from tomorrow.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Okay, I'll
And then I
resend
just
them.
send that to the survey company.
I'd wait, just to make sure that the board doesn't make any changes, but you can send it to them while you're waiting.
yeah.
I'll send it when I need to not confuse them. They're pretty quick now, you know, you have to get it, they're pretty quick.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Otherwise, I'll see you a week from tomorrow.
Thank you. Moving on to discussion and possible action at the request of Jason and Courtney Kilmer for the review and recommendations for the final certified survey map to combine the properties located at W225 South 10855 Big Bend Drive, tax key numbers 2159999003 and 215990004. Sean?
Yeah, another fairly simple one here, it's a CSM, they're combining two lots. The purpose of the combination is essentially so you have more flexibility for where you can put your accessory building, based on the lot line and so on. It meets all zoning requirements, everything is fine, it's on a county road, or I'm sorry, a state highway. The only comment I had about this one is that as part of the CSM that originally created this, there was 3 lots, the petitioner owns 2 of the southern lots. There was a 60 by 60 access easement that was required by the state at the time to put on the property. So basically when the northern lot ever got developed, they'd have to put their access point there, and then also you would have to remove your driveway and then connect your access point to that lot as well. So the state wanted the access points basically consolidated between the 2 properties at that access easement. Now that it's being combined and back to one, they still have the access easement on here, which again makes sense because the DOT approved it, but the notes on here aren't on here anymore that basically said the reason why it was there, when it had to be used, and so on and so forth. I'm thinking that now that it's being consolidated, the access easement isn't required at all anymore, but we just wanted DOT's input on there as whether or not it could come off the survey.
The surveyor said that he couldn't get it removed because it was already an easement on there.
Right, but the easement was created as part of the CSM.
Right.
So we could change that as part of this new CSM. It doesn't make any sense anymore because there's not even a note there that talks about what it's for at this point. So it's okay to approve the CSM. I just simply have a condition here that says the petitioner shall provide the village correspondence and satisfying the DOT requirements for access restrictions or easements for the combined lot. If the DOT wants to leave it on there, great. If they want it removed, that's great too. But for a note added, they might want a note added about it. So you could recommend approval, but I still think the DOT needs to weigh on the easement because it's a different situation than it used to be. If they come back and say just leave it alone, then we'll be fine with that.
I mean, it is still a field access. I mean, there is a field access there. I mean, but
Right, but now that it's one lot, the easement itself doesn't
need.
there's no beneficiary to the easement.
So, do we approve it based on DOT's recommendation?
Yeah,
or
that's one of my, you could recommend approval based on the 3 conditions. One of them is just satisfying any conditions the DOT would have regarding the easement.
Simple enough. Any questions, concerns?
So that basically leaves it up to the DOT.
The DOT to do whatever they want with access, right? He's already got a driveway on there now, which the DOT isn't not going to make him remove for his existing driveway, but it's whatever they want to do with that access easement. Remove it, add an additional note, or leave it alone.
I'm good with that.
Is there a motion to recommend approval to the village board with the 3 conditions stated in Sean's report?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Motion made by trustee Alex, second by trustee Jamie. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously.
Okay, thank you. So just notify the surveyor and put the notes on it,
Notify the surveyor to contact DOT to see what they want to do with the act. Now that it's going to be combined.
and then add the notes if needed.
Whatever the DOT wants with regard to access, yeah.
Thank you.
And then village board will
Village board
approve
is
it
next
a
Thursday.
week from tomorrow, that means
Okay.
the final approval then.
I will send it out to him tonight then. Have
Alright.
it added to it. Alright.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Discussion and possible action of the request of Nick Venice for the property owner Asmana Real Estate LLC for the property located at South 94 West 27495 Edgewood Avenue. Tax key numbers 2134999002 and 2092997 and 2133990004 for the review and the recommendation to the village board for the amendment of the site plan of operation for Edgewood Greenhouses. John?
Thank you. So the property's under new ownership now, and that's the reason, one of the reasons they're coming forward. But the other reason is essentially to add a new greenhouse, a 40 48,384 square foot greenhouse to the northeast portion of the property. Greenhouse has been around since the 60s. There's been a number of site plan of operation amendments over the years. Back in 2021, the previous owner came forward, was going to add some greenhouses in this location. Never finished the process essentially, and so the new owners now are looking to add a greenhouse in essentially the same location. They have the property is zoned agribusiness, AB, agricultural business, which this is a permitted use. They meet all the requirements, including setbacks and lot coverage. Waukesha County stormwater is really the big issue here. The county recently approved their stormwater plan, so all that has to be done with regard to stormwater is essentially recording the agreement, stormwater agreement and the plan. So that's all been satisfied. The only thing I'll mention, so there was the last plan of operation that was approved for the previous owner is in my conditions. It's condition 1. Talks about operation of a wholesale greenhouse business, 30 employees, full-time employees or equivalent, 5 commercial box trucks used for delivery of varied flowers and foliage plants for retailers, contractors, and landscapers. Hours of operation Monday to Friday, 7 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. And then retail sales are prohibited on the subject property. So we talked a little bit about this. I assume they were taking over the exact operation, but we can still change those if the plan commission or the petitioner wants to tweak any of those. Those can certainly be discussed. And then finally, the plans show an expansion, a future greenhouse structure. One of the plans shows it to the east. I think the plans that were submitted for stormwater shows it to the south. We could essentially approve an expansion as part of this if you have a mind to do that, provided that they satisfy stormwater requirements, or they can come back for future expansions as well. The expansion to the south is an issue though, because it would be too close to the property line. This property is comprised of a number of properties and parcels, so.
I believe that expansion is going to be
to the east?
West.
No,
No?
no. The future expansion would be a corridor between the existing field house and the existing greenhouse and a new greenhouse, so it'd be to the south.
Okay, so that can't happen unless the lots are combined, because there's existing lot lines there.
Correct.
So you can combine the lots and do it.
I just didn't want to have to go back to the county for another stormwater management plan and everything. I wanted to get that all approved.
So they approved the expansion as part of the stormwater. So we could essentially approve their expansion provided they combine the lots through a certified survey map. So that we could add that condition if you wanted to. So that's all I have.
I'd be in favor of adding that condition. Streamline things a little bit for them in the future.
So expansion to the south as shown in the plans, with combination of lots through CSM.
But the lion's share of the expansion would be approved now.
Yeah, yeah, you can build what you're showing as proposed.
Sure.
Right.
Any other thoughts, concerns?
I'll make that motion subject to those conditions.
Motion made by trustee Newman,
Second.
second by trustee Rinaldi. Any further discussion?
You've all been
I was
promoted.
just gonna ask, is the plan of operation as I stated, does that work for you?
For the most part,
What,
the trucks were up. You had 5, roughly 8.
okay, we can certainly update that. Do you wanna say up to 10? I mean, would be,
Up to 10.
I'll amend my motion. You can do that in your second if you want.
Well, just wait
Wait
to
a
see if
minute,
there's
might
anything
as
else
well.
changes.
employees, up to 30 employees, hours 7 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. Monday through Friday?
Yes, yeah. But 1 or 2 guys might come in at 6 on any given day, but
It's so far back, nobody would even,
Yeah,
and there's
yeah.
never ever, no matter who owned it, there's never been a problem with that property,
Yeah.
ever.
I think you said no hours on the weekend, nothing on Saturday.
we're kind of seasonal based around Mother's Day and then fall home season, so we do a little shipping on Saturday or Sunday, but we own the house and the property to the east, and to the west of us is just wetlands.
You guys don't do poinsettias for
We
Pasco?
do poinsettias, but normally poinsettia shipping is, we can fill the store on
Oh.
Friday for the weekend.
I'm sorry, Sean, you're going.
No, that's okay. So it sounds like they, up to 10 trucks would cover them, and hours are generally 7 to 3:30 PM.
The other points on the site plan of application, did you need to change anything else?
I don't remember.
So there's 30 employees,
Yeah, that's good.
okay. And then no retail sales still.
Correct.
All right,
Like I said, I'll amend my motion.
Mario,
And my second.
any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Opposed, motion passes unanimously.
This has to go to the village board too. This has to go to the village board too next Thursday.
Next Thursday, okay. 6 o'clock? Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Discussion and possible action at the request of Mike Alex for the property owner Alex Homestead LLC for the property located at South 110 West 23450 County Line Road, XP numbers 215-699-8003 for the review of a conceptual single-family condominium project or development.
Do you want to kick it off? Yeah, I mean, the only thing I'll say is we did talk about this conceptually a couple months back. I
Yep.
don't remember exactly when it was. So this isn't too far off from what was originally proposed. Mike's just gotten farther along in the details. I don't have a staff report for this, but I do have some comments and things to think about. So if you want to just give an overview, Mike.
Yeah, and I think, Jamie, this was before you the last time that I was up, so to just give you a kind of a thumbnail sketch, probably starting with the preliminary site concept plan would be the best thing to have in front of you. Essentially what we're going to do, and it's a little bit deceiving on here, just the way that it shows it, and we don't have anything to show up top, but it's an 80-acre parcel. You're seeing roughly 55 acres maybe, so there's another 25 that kind of extends northward. But this is the predominant, we zoomed in just so we could show the areas of development. It's very much, when you look at it, it looks like it's a subdivision, but it's a condo. So forgive me if I interchange the words lot and unit, but it's creating multiple units within a single lot. Ultimately, it would be 8 units within that 80-acre parcel. The existing home and operations being unit 1, and then unit 2 being the first to develop. That would be kind of the first phase of development, and I'll kind of get into that towards the end. But essentially creating those 8 units on paper, and then developing them over the next year for unit 2, and then 10 to 20 years for units 3 through 8. This would require a rezone of portions of the property. As you probably or might know, we have an event barn that we operate on the existing site, so that has some requirements to remain 80-10, so that would be 80-10 zoning. And we show on here roughly a 21.96 acre lot, I believe. And then the remaining lots vary in size from 1.96 acres up to 3.5 and change. The goal will be to maintain as much of the ag land as possible throughout the development as well as after development. And Sean did make the comment, I think you were given Sean's email correspondence, trying to maintain that conservancy style development. We did it in a little bit different way maybe than would typically be done. Typically, if you're going to do this development, you're going to try and have the smallest street possible. So you're going to have it come right into your property, have the cul-de-sac bowl, get as many units as you can there, and then leave whatever's left over to kind of be that common space that would be shared for kind of the overflow, so you can have a little bit smaller lots. Based on the size that we need to have unit 1, as well as just kind of the orientation of the lot and some of the wetlands that are existing on there, we kind of flipped it so that that conservancy style land technically is in a unit, that being Unit 1, but it is still maintained as ag land. And again, the phased approach would be that Unit 2 would be built out first, and then those remaining Units 3 through 8 would still be farmed until our kids eventually would want to build back there. In addition to the zoning, the other big thing that I kind of want some direction on, so again, this is conceptual in nature, it's a little bit more refined than last time. There are still some things on here that the engineer put on there that I would kind of like to tweak, and that's what I'm here for you guys as far as, I know Sean had some questions on lot sizes and orientation, so that's what we can talk about, but mainly is that roadway. It's a private road, and in this, what that means practically speaking is that it's owned in common by the condo association, so they do not only the construction of it like would normally happen in a subdivision, but also the maintenance and upkeep of it, both things like plowing as well as repair and that. So what I'm requesting is that it not be a 24-foot wide driveway, and I have some information on that too that I didn't have together until after the original packet went out. So
You're talking about the original driveway?
not the original, so the original driveway will stay, but the proposed cul-de-sac bulb, and then the attachment to kind of that existing throat, I'll call it, of the driveway, that's where we would be requesting the 16 feet. Yeah, so if you're looking at this on paper, talking about this entryway, that roadway to be 16 feet. What I did with this was just try and give you an idea. The first one is talking about the area, kind of our neighborhood, what exists in that part. Just with the way that the Fox River runs through there and the way that the existing development has been, there's a lot of private driveways and shared driveways. One thing I wanted to point out in doing this is to show there are times when you have a subservient parcel, so you have a parcel like we were talking about in that first proposal, you're going to have a parcel that's getting crossed over to get to other parcels. This is different in that all of the units own that roadway and they maintain that roadway. So it's different than anything that is on here in that way. A couple of things to point out, and I have this still on there because we went for a request and were granted it. I don't want to use the word variance because that's not what it was, but in our conditional use for the existing gravel drive that accesses the event barn operations is 18 feet is what that's approved for. Over the 4 years that we've been there and operating events, we have up to, I think, 85 parking spots between the public parking and our staff parking. Obviously, the only time that comes into play is when you have two cars that are going opposite directions. We've never had any issues with that. We've even had events where life safety, that's what it really comes down to. Since we're not worrying about plow trucks coming onto the site and having to maneuver, it's primarily having to do with life safety. We had a full fire truck and ambulance and fire chief's apparatus there, actually for my wife when she was having an allergic reaction in the middle of an event. So we have tested that out, unfortunately in a bad way, but they have all the access they need. The other thing that I would point out, two more things, are that cul-de-sac bulb would be constructed in the same manner as a current spec would require for a subdivision, whether it was a 24-foot wide street or what we were proposing. Again, that's giving the apparatus the ability to maneuver through the site. The other thing is the road construction standards, so it's not like it's going to be a residential driveway, it's going to be a full 10-inch subbase and then 4-inch topping and then 2 lifts for that roadway. So really it's the width that we're kind of asking about. Asphalt, yes. The reason I'm bringing that up is because that kind of has the trickle-down effect, which is kind of a pun as I think of it, for things like stormwater management. The more impervious surface that we have, the bigger the structures there have to be for stormwater management. I have been in since the last meeting to talk with Marissa at Waukesha County, kind of gave her the preliminary plans of what we're looking at. They seem to be pretty well on board with some ways to be able to handle stormwater management. The plan would be for each individual unit would kind of take care of their own load, so to speak, through things like rain gardens and natural drainage within each unit. And then the condo development itself would deal with the roadway surface runoff. They had some creative ideas, and we started that discussion. But again, until we get engineered drawings that say, hey, we're going based on a 16-foot wide, 18-foot wide, 24-foot wide driveway, we can't know what those structures are going to be. So that's one of the big things. Obviously, you can't approve anything at this point, but it's just trying to make sure that I'm doing the correct due diligence for that. To just kind of break it down, what that roadway means, the last page is the roadway analysis. So that road, to give you an idea of scale, is 1,331 feet, as it shows there to the end of that bulb, at a width of 16 feet. You can see how it runs down. We're basically looking at saving about a 1/4 acre of land from just being pavement. And again, our goal is to create a rural setting, as if that road wasn't there. We're going to try and hide it visually, aesthetically, but still make it something that people are able to pass on. I think I hit on all of those notes.
Mike, what's the spur going?
Yeah, in between units.
Yeah,
5 and 6. Okay, that's what I wanted to do, is maintain river access for all of the units. So that's common space. Really, and I didn't want the meter to keep running. So really, that hashing, that blue diagonal, should go all the way up through the river, through those wetlands, because all of that is common space. So that gives all of these units access through that legally to the river. Same thing with the space just north of phase 1, how it's that same kind of colored blue. That's technically common area, just like the roadway.
In the west end of Unit 6, this is the smallest lot. It's the 1.65 acres, if I can read that. Is that, why do you have it cut off there? Is that where your property is uneven like that, or?
No, the actual lot line is this north-south line here.
Okay.
So that's why all of this, anything that's not hashed as units, is common space. So that's what everybody would own a pro rata share of. So they would own 1/8 of all of that common space.
So did you scale the left edge of these so that people could go up along the river there? So that's common and not somebody's property? Or you had to keep the properties off the river? Is that the river?
Yeah, the river doesn't start, it's kind of, you can see a horizontal property line. So the river kind of comes close to the corner of Unit 7. But to be honest, that just kind of follows roughly the tree line. And if that were something, the one thing that we're trying to do, and I wanted to mention, for some of the lot shapes, we already had some preliminary soils testing done. So for things like septic, each of these would be on their own septic system. So we have kind of some nodes that are receptive to having septic. So that's why Unit 2 kind of has that longer, narrower shape for 2 reasons. One, the septic location is in between that proposed roadway and the east property line, kind of just to the north of the driveway, existing driveway. So that's why that is kind of a longer, narrower strip. Also, any farming of that area to the east of the driveway would be a little bit difficult, so I just want to be able to maintain that a little bit easier than expecting that to continue to be farmed. Same thing with Unit 3. That's actually one of the best spots for septic, kind of right above where it has the labeling Unit 3. I personally don't necessarily love the shape of that lot, and that's the other thing that I'm looking for a little bit of direction from you guys too. What you would like to see for lots. That 1.65 acre lot, yes, it's kind of awkwardly spaced, that if that cul-de-sac bulb was a little bit farther west and south, I think it might be able to make a little bit more sense to me. But again, I wanted to have another step in the right direction, and then we can kind of continue to hone it in based on, you know, the feedback that you guys give.
I would think you could at least run unit 8 all the way to your existing lot line.
Well, if I can make a comment real quick about that. So normally, if this was gonna be a subdivision, and these were gonna be lots, we'd normally, especially in the RRD5 district, where you're trying to promote smaller lots, and then you preserve more open space, it's required once you get to the subdivision status in RRD5 that there's conservancy, lots can be as small as an acre in size, so these are a little larger, which is fine, but I'd like to see all of the wetland areas, for instance, being part of the common open space and out of the units themselves. So that line in the back there, in my opinion, there shouldn't be, none of the units should be in the wetland. They should be pulled out, and the wetland should be in the common open space.
The line crossing units 5 and 6 and the corner of 7?
Exactly. It says wet on there, basically. You can see it says wet. That's the wetland boundary.
Now zoom in, yes.
So, you know, and the reason for that essentially is, you know, there's wetland on people's properties, and that's probably not going to be the case here. It's family and everything else, but if people have wetlands on their properties, they feel more, you know, filling them in, doing this, doing that, grading there. This is mostly trees in the wetlands anyway. It's probably not going to happen, but that's customary to put the environmentally sensitive areas in the common open space. So I think there's some room here to reorganize this a little bit to get, you know, maybe a couple better shaped lots. Maybe some of them get a little bit smaller. Hopefully most of the wetland gets in the common open space areas. So that's my comment on that. And so there's probably going to be a little bit of reorganization here.
Yeah, and we're totally fine with that. I mean, the development area would be within the bounds of the farmland. We want to maintain as much tree lines and things as we can, so pulling those in, you know, wouldn't be a problem. I think that unit 6 is just the real one to have to see how that access works based on, you know, where that bulb ends up.
Sure. Yeah. So there's going to be some give and take. So in terms of the road, I did everything Mike said. I agree with the cul-de-sac. I talked to the village engineer about this. You know, the proposed road, the width, the cul-de-sac bulb, all those things, and he basically said he didn't have an issue with it, provided the road was built to, you know, the section of the road was built to the village road specs, and the cul-de-sac bulb met the village requirements, which is 90 feet of pavement. I think you might have more than that there.
I think he shows it as 120.
120. Yeah. So it's got to be 90 feet for, you know, for a turnaround for a fire truck. But I think it'd be important to get obviously the fire department's opinion on the 16-foot roadway. The cul-de-sac bulb will be fine, but whether or not 16 feet of roadway is going to be fine with the fire department. We recently updated the cul-de-sac information in the land division ordinance. The limit is 1,200 feet unless it's approved by the plan commission and board. This is a little bit longer, like 130 feet longer than that. So that also requires the fire department to weigh in on, and the plan commission board have to issue basically an approval for that as well, which is fine, but just something to be aware of. So the roadway standards, the village roadway standards are in the land division ordinance, and they basically say that you shall build them to a certain spec. And the road, it doesn't differentiate between private roads and public roads. And if you look at the definition for road in the ordinance, road says public or private road. So it's intended to be applied to all new public and private roads. However, you can waive that. There's a blanket waiver provision in the land division ordinance that allows you to waive things provided it's not a detriment to the property and the community and so on and so forth. So you can look at these on a case-by-case basis and waive this if you like, if it makes sense. So I think that was all my comments. Thanks.
Is that chapter 180?
200.
Okay.
And 200 is basically a link. There's a table basically that lists the requirements. It has a 66-foot right-of-way. It's got 24 feet of pavement, 3-foot shoulders. I mean, that's the standard cross-section for a village road. So that's what is required unless it's waived for public or private roads.
Does this view show those additional, the two structures?
That original, the
The concept plan?
concept plan, no. I overlaid those, I didn't want this to get, so it doesn't show up on this one. I did a blown up version of just that unit for that outbuilding detail.
So those are future accessory buildings for Unit 1. Those, since they're basically located closer to the road, those would also require a waiver, basically, and the number of buildings would require a waiver as well. But it's my understanding that may come later on.
Yeah, it's something so that, similar to the greenhouse where when we're doing things like stormwater, we want to account for everything that, you know, could be developed, so we're not, you know, running into issues on that. Same thing with the approvals to know what, you know, the future development could be without having to reopen the whole condo plat type of rules. Because along with the picture of the condo plat goes along all the declarations and all of those legalese to be able to know what each unit is allowed to do or not allowed to do. So we're trying to get as much of that clarified up front.
And you can certainly put that in there, that Unit 1's allowed to build other buildings
Correct,
like that.
yeah.
Whether the village approves it or not is
Mhm.
a different story.
Yeah.
And just for the record, the house that's shown on Unit 2, the first house that will be built, is shown right adjacent to the wetland, which is obviously too close, and it'll be moved off.
Yeah, and that orientation and the size was, I don't know where they got that from.
So this would require a rezoning for units 2 through 8, and approval of a condominium plat going forward. And then there's stormwater plans from the county.
Yeah, and the other thing to bring back up, and those who were on last time, is talking about that phased approach. Jamie mentioned about asphalt pavement. That would come in once, because we don't want to pave before those back units are built out.
Right.
So that would come after the fourth unit, because there's already one unit that's built. For phase 1 would be unit 2. That fourth unit would trigger the pavement of that road.
Assuming emergency, you know, the fire department and so on is okay with the road width, what do you feel? How do you think of the 16-foot pavement?
But before it gets paved, would it just be gravel, or would it just be dirt, or what?
Correct, yeah. So it'd basically be the sub base without the 4-inch topper.
Just for the first house?
Correct, the first house, and then the first house built in the back of the property is what I'm proposing.
Okay.
Personally, I'm fine with it as long as the fire department's fine with it.
So you'll have to make sure your engineer, that one radius, the first curve looks maybe a little tight because it's a reduced width. If it was 24 feet, it might not be an issue, but that one might be a little tight for the turning radius.
Yeah, and what they'll do is they'll actually show a simulation of a truck going through, and they'll kind of show it. That's what they did for our other one. And in general, that roadway, I think, is going to get massaged to be able to get the lots access a little bit better.
So at what point do you want to bring this to the fire chief right away to get some feedback on? That might be.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that would have been I wanted to talk with you guys first. I thought that was the first step or hurdle, and then talking with them before I tell the engineer, yeah, go ahead and, you know, crunch the numbers on it, you know, after we have at least some type of review.
So does this have to go to the village board also?
No, it doesn't have to unless you wanted to. I mean, it's only conceptual. There's no approvals here. If you wanted their feedback, you could bring it to the rest of the board. It's up to Mike.
And Mike, it'd probably be better if you sit down with Alex,
Yeah.
and talk to him. I mean,
I'm fine with that approach. I think having the planning commission is the one to see the conceptual side of stuff, and then once we can show where stormwater is and that, I'd be comfortable to then present it to the board and the whole shoot match.
And I did hear from the chief and assistant chief about 2 emergency situations that
Unfortunately, both for my family members.
right. And they had said access, it was extremely easy, which was good to hear. Unfortunate for you, Mike, but
Yeah.
I've heard nothing but
The
good
hardest
things.
access was actually getting up our old staircase. My wife went up to the second floor and was, having her reactions. That wasn't good.
I know a number of people that have been to events there, and everybody said it's amazing, so, great job.
And just to give you guys, so it's also similar, like I said, there's all the legalese that goes along with it, where it's got, we'll just call it an HOA, it's got an association that has kind of the oversight, and since we're the ones developing it, my wife and I are the ones that are, my wife is the one with the final gavel on everything from architectural type of stuff, so we even deal with those types of things right in those docs to be able to kind of keep development kind of fitting with the area.
And we'd only want to review them insofar as it doesn't contradict with village ordinances.
Correct,
There's
yeah.
nothing in there that would be prohibited by it.
Yeah, essentially what we were in the and I think you were given a draft, we're adopting some of those RRD5 type languages, talking about the the structure sizes, accessory buildings, and all of that type of stuff to kind of clarify and adopt all of those Vernon code language into the condo docs, and also address those things like further development rights and all that.
And Mike, is it restricted to just your children and in-laws?
The declaration won't, but the practice of it will.
Okay. And do you want me to send these documents to Alex, or do you want to, and let him know that you're going to be
You
contacting?
can send it to him and then I'll give him a
Okay.
call.
Okay.
Yeah, it doesn't hurt to have it both ways.
Okay.
Any further questions, comments?
One question for both Sean and the commission, the one thing is the wetlands on the west side, or the east side of the property that kind of jut out. Is that something where you would want to see all lot lines not encroaching on that as well, and have all of that? Because then it's one of those things where, well, we have an abnormally shaped lot, but it's done that way so that it's keeping things like wetlands out of it. It doesn't matter either way, they're wetlands, they're not developable, so.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you have to absolutely have all the wetlands in.
Okay.
I just think generally that should be.
Yeah, especially, I agree with that northern and western portion, there's no reason to keep
If
that.
it makes sense not to because of some other reason for lot configuration or something.
Okay.
From my perspective.
Because it's like half of unit 3, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
unit 3 is a little
Yeah,
funky.
right.
And then for delineations, what would the county use, I believe the term disturbed area, as far as what they would be looking for to show for wetlands? What would Vernon be looking
Yeah,
for?
I think anything that's going to be close to development essentially.
or kind of that western or eastern jut out would definitely, because obviously we're going to be hugging that for a
Yeah,
road.
and I think some of the northern one too, because there's going to eventually be houses there too. So I think that the one south of the river
Yeah.
and then the one on the east side.
Mike, and your information was unbelievable.
Yes, it was the project.
It was a little skimpy.
Always Marty.
You're lucky Dan
I
wasn't
have to
here.
say, barn dominium. Did you see the barn dominium in there,
Yeah.
Marty?
I'm still wondering about.
He gave me
how many
No.
units will-
No, the term barn dominium, yeah.
And,
that one.
and just to give you guys some feedback, because I've been sitting a lot of times over there, and I had mentioned to Sean, hey, we're gonna kind of kick the tires on the detached ADU, because we're very close to like, hey, well, why wouldn't this just be a detached ADU? The 1,200 square foot maximum square footage is a little bit restrictive in the sense that, well, if you're going to build this, extensively, then you're kind of going to have to build a little bit bigger. So, just some feedback on that, why we didn't. So when you say, hey, nobody's come in for one of those ADU things yet, we kind of.
We've had a couple of people ask if these are the tiny houses in Vernon. And I said, no, a tiny house is a lot tinier than.
Yeah.
Not much.
I just wanted to tell you that, Mike, when you sent that stuff over, I thought, wow.
But the people that originally proposed the language change, they haven't been back to propose.
No, they're working on stuff, and there's a couple other people that are, getting things together. But it was really well received in the newsletter that went out. especially for people that want to keep their parents close, but not in their house.
With the TV so loud.
Right.
All right, Mike, you good?
I think so. I think I got the direction I need. Thank you.
Moving on to Village Board and Plan Commission joint meeting minutes from May 14th. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
I was there.
And we forgot to welcome you, Jamie.
Oh, thank you.
Welcome, Jamie.
No problem.
Yeah, I'll second.
He came back for the second meeting, so. Michael Alex, second the minutes, okay. All in favor of the motion? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Yes.
Mario?
Mario made the motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by trustee Newman. All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned.
Okay, well, I will leave this with you, madam.